Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Aulino, Michael Asiffo, and Aaron Zaretsky, and we're back with another edition of the Roundtable. It's been a busy week, especially with the big event WrestleMania coming up this weekend. But first, we're gonna go with the NBA because we finally found out who the Toronto Raptors are playing in the first round. Michael, it's gonna look like Toronto and Cleveland are gonna go at it here. So, what are your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Glory hallelujah, because we were about to face the Knicks, and um, it looked like after, especially after we lost to the Knicks on the Saturday, it looked like it was pretty much a done deal. But then divine intervention was on our side. We go in there and smash Brooklyn, and the Hawks lay an egg, and therefore we're going to face Cleveland, who I think just we statistically and even just doing the eye test match up way better against. So um, all that to say is that I prefer this matchup if the idea is to advance to the next round. And so, yeah, glory hallelujah. We're facing the Cavs. I believe we swept the season series against them. Granted, it was before James Harden came to town. So, in my opinion, we just line up better with them. And if it's about advancing, I think we have a better chance against them than the Knicks as of right now.
I agree. And Aaron, this is a matchup where on paper it looks like the Raptors have the advantage there, the season sweep. So, what are your thoughts on this and like the James Harden effect? Do you think that's going to be a big impact there for the Cavs?
Uh, well, as we all know, that James Harden struggles a lot in the playoffs, and like even, like the last time the Raptors were in the playoffs against Philadelphia, right? Like Harden was struggling during that series. Um, and like it's great, that the Raptors, have at least, beat Cleveland three times. Yes, Michael, as you mentioned, all before James Harden. But I'm expecting like a competitive series. Raptors have a fighting chance, unlike they would have if they did face the New York Knicks. Um, and the Raptors, like the expectations, it's the lowest that I have seen for the Raptors entering a first round matchup since 2002 when they played Detroit, and that was when Vince Carter was hurt. So Antonio Davis really stepped up, and even though the Raptors didn't win that series did go to 5 games when it was a best of five at that time. So Raptors, with the low expectations, hopefully they can eliminate Cleveland, but at the least, it gives this group two more playoff experience and, first time with Brendan Ingram, with Scotty Barnes. And then for the younger guys too, for the younger guys like Jacoby Walter and Jamal Shed, for them to get, valuable playoff experience, that can only help the team going forward for next season.
Yeah, and you guys both bring up great points there. And Aaron, you had Jack Armstrong. You spoke to him on your podcast, and you were talking about Scotty Barnes. Being Defensive Player of the Year, strong contention for that. So when you have him, when you have what Ingram's been doing, is you're optimistic for the Raptors here, or is there still something that you think they're missing in their game against a team like Cleveland?
Like I'm hopeful, that we can win the series. I think Jakob Hurdle, him going against Jared Allen is a better matchup for him than it would be if facing the next Carl Anthony Towns. So, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how Hurdle can perform in the series, and then with Mamu, seeing what he can do, stretch the floor, play defense, and then yeah, and then Scotty Barnes, like he can really, go after Mobley, like that, will be a great matchup to see, as they battle out for the rookie of the year a few years ago. And then yeah, then Ingram, yeah, then I think it'll come down to Ingram and Harden, because like, if Harden can perform the way he would usually do in the regular season, then okay, that could be an X factor. And then obviously with Donovan Mitchell too, like, the Cleveland does have the upper hand at the point guard position. But the Raptors, with Ingram, if he can really take that next level too, then it could bode very well for the Raptors.
I agree. Yeah, Michael, like this on-court matchup seems like a positional play here with like every position is going to be like one for one. Some of them, offset a bit, but is there an X factor you think for both teams to really rely on here?
Yeah, no, I definitely think the X factor on the Cavs side is Evan Mobley. I think if Evan Mobley can step up, he's going to give the Raptors nightmares. There's not when Evan Mobley is on his game, there's not quite a lot of players who are like him. He's a damn near 7 footer. He stretches the floor, plays excellent defense, can go stride for stride with anybody. But whether it be injury concerns or just straight up not playing to his potential, he's kind of taken that step back. I remember there was a legitimate conversation that he was in the realm of Scotty Barnes in terms of star potential, and then somehow, some way, that just didn't pan out. But it's still young. They're both young in their careers, and I think if we allow Evan Mobley to really get going, that could be spell trouble on the Cleveland side. On the Raptors side, I'm actually going to go off the board here and say that I think Jamal Shed can really, really, really impact the game. He's not going to score a ton for you. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the little things, the intangibles, the things that matter when the refs are swallowing the whistle a little bit are going to be where he's going to shine. And so you might not see on the scoreboard, you might not see the stats fill up, but he's going to be very impactful in those 50-50s, those hustle plays, those things that wear on teams over a 7-game series.
Agree. And do you think Jakob Pertl is past like being that X factor, like a under the radar type player? Because we've seen this season a lot of fans maybe saying that should have looked at trading him and upgraded that center position. But now that they're in the playoffs and he has that matchup with Allen, do you think he might get exposed here?
I wouldn't say exposed, but I do think the injuries are starting to catch up with him a little bit. Last year, he looked fantastic in stretches, and he still does. Like he still did in this season, but it was a bit more few and far between this year. And a lot of it was because that back is really giving him issues, and I think it's starting to catch up. And we have to keep in mind. Jakob Pertl's not a spring chicken no more, right? For point of reference, he was in the same draft class as Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
Right? So he's getting older. The injuries are starting to catch up with him a little bit. And so don't be surprised if Jaron Allen has one night a 17 and 11. You know what I'm saying? Or something better. Like it's going to happen. And that's okay. Jared Allen's a great player. But I wouldn't necessarily say Jakob Pertl is done or like he's going to be exposed. I think it's just more so a case of, hey, he is what he is at this stage of his career.
I agree. And Aaron, do you think Jakob Pertl could be utilized in a different way here? Like we see the way Scotty Barnes, when he's carrying the ball, running the point, how could change the dynamic sometimes, especially when you got Ingram making big time plays and those game winners. But what do you think about Pertl slotting in this playoff run?
Yeah, because with Pertl, the thing with him, right, is that he's more of a traditional big man, right, where shoots mid-range shots, rebounds, blocks, here and there. But he's not really mobile and being able to stretch the floor out. So it's a benefit that we're not playing the Knicks, because then you would have really get exposed going against Karl Anthony Towns. But hopefully, like Hurdle can be the guy that that the Raptors are paying so much money to, and if not, at least the Raptors have Mamu, who's been having a tremendous season, been able to make threes here and there and really be, a good inside presence on the defensive end. So at least, if hopefully Hurdle can be productive, but at least the Raptors have some options with Mamu.
It's going to be interesting to watch there. Raptors back in the playoffs, taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round. And now we're going to move on to WrestleMania, which has been getting the internet wrestling community sparked up a little bit and upset. We saw Pat McAfee reappear, all of a sudden turn heel, and not a lot of people liked it. So, Michael, I'll start with you. What do you think of Pat McAfee being introduced with Randy Orton in this and, upsetting everybody, so to speak?
I think, well, look, I think generally speaking, the IWC, Internet Wrestling Community for the uninitiated, they've been called a lot of things, but they tend to be, what's the word I'm looking for? It's this weird relationship where they tend to be like backseat booker, right? And I think what it is that they think about wrestling in the sense of long-term through-line storytelling. And I think what gets people is that there seems to be a randomness of Pat McAfee coming back, turning heel, and aligning with Randy Orton, of all people. You know what I'm trying to say? It just doesn't seem like, it seems like shoehorned in to try to get as many stars as possible for WrestleMania, and not a good actual long-term storytelling done because of storytelling's sake. And I think that's what's getting people mad. It's this corporatization of WWE that's kind of pissing people off. And if I may, I think there's a world in which this Randy Orton storyline could have worked, where I think Randy Orton says it's the voices, but he's hearing it from the phone, and he's being convinced to get worse and worse as a human being. I think that's a good story, but I think the fact that like it's Pat McAfee coming in because he's only available for 2 dates, and one of those dates is WrestleMania, it feels shoehorned in, it feels forced, and it feels like people aren't on board, and it feels like there's kind of immunity effect happening. But yeah, I mean, like, the internet wrestling community is going to internet wrestling community. Like, Pat McAfee could have walked on water. This could have been great. Everything could have been booked to perfection, and somebody would have complained. So it is what it is.
It's one of those things too, where Pat McAfee, he even threw shots at CM Punk. He's like, you know what? He's asking for ticket prices to go down because he can't sell. So I don't know if that was just one because CM Punk's gonna be upset by that one and just go off even more. But do you think Pat McAfee is doing the right thing here as a heel, just to get everybody fired up here?
Yeah, absolutely. No, like this is the thing. Pat McAfee he understands the business in such a short period of time, and I think it's kind of very similar to the way Logan Paul kind of took to the business, in the sense that like they respect the business, that they're actually legitimately trying their best and they're playing their roles well. I just think that they have not been put in the position to succeed, and that's where I think everyone is mad. Is that like there could have been better booking around these talents to make things better. And that's where people's frustrations are at. But I don't necessarily, what's the word I'm looking for? But I don't necessarily fault Pat McAfee himself.
And Aaron, we saw that too. Like when Pat McAfee comes out, like I'm sure everybody's thinking like anybody else but him. So when Pat McAfee comes out, what were your thoughts on just him being involved in this?
Yeah, like I didn't fully understand it, because McAfee doesn't really add to the story of the storyline between Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. To your point, Michael, like I think it was him because to add more star power to watch WrestleMania. But Punk, right? He he definitely fired back at McAfee in his promo last week, right? Like saying about like, why don't you go to your friend TKO friends to lower the ticket prices? I want to see more families in the stands, watching WrestleMania.
Yeah, and he also came back with the TKO bank account line to CM Punk. It would be sorry Saudi Arabia. So do you think that one was the one that's gonna get like CM Punk riled up even more behind the scenes? Because CM Punk tends to, backstage when things like escalate on TV. He doesn't really like that too much.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like I'm gonna shoot CM Punk some bail here. The AEW stuff was the AEW stuff. I think like what because that whole case with Colt Cabana and whatever and what happened there, clearly CM Punk felt like the facts were being misrepresented, and that's what he's upset about. It's not necessarily things are being brought up; it's that things are being lied about to damage his reputation. And I'm going to shoot him some bail here. What I'm not going to shoot CM Punk bail on is this hypocrisy, okay, of, hey, I get to say whatever I want, but you have to keep it tight-lipped when it comes to me. I I think in this instance, they probably discussed it and they're okay, right? They're probably healing it up a little bit. But I think like in terms of kind of the vitriol he spewed and the vitriol that he's known to be upset about, that's where I think it's gonna be interesting to see what's being talked about behind the scenes.
I agree. Well, we'll probably see it in the Netflix documentary in the coming months. That they're all back there, and Triple H has the chalkboard and the whiteboard, writing out everything and ready to go there. But this seems like TKO inserted Pat McAfee, and it just leads me to believe. I'll ask you first, Aaron. Is Vince McMahon going to be introduced as Randy Orton's true voice on the phone?
Oh my gosh, what a controversy that would be if true. And like, if he just appears and then I could really, if he appears, I could really see him getting like a huge pop and then be like, oh my God, it's Vince McMahon. It's like, where did he come from, right? It's like, my God, where did he come from? Vince McMahon. Yeah, I think it'd be more so more amusing than, to be taken seriously. Yeah.
We've got some technical difficulties here, but yeah. And Michael, do you think Vince McMahon, like, that seems to be the one that fans on Twitter, at least that I'm seeing, like Vince McMahon or The Rock, but with The Rock's schedule, like Vince McMahon, as crazy as it sounds, seems like the likely candidate here.
It does. I think it does seem like a likely candidate if there's going to be a shock return. I would caution against it. I would caution very much against it for reasons that are obvious. But if someone were to come back and be the true voice, it would probably be Vince McMahon. And I've heard reports are more and more swirling that TKO wants Vince McMahon back, right? But I think the reason why I caution against it is that Vince McMahon, like, never mind the case. I mean, the case is serious. The case was serious. Yeah. So understand when I say never mind the case, I'm saying it as, hey, let's take that out of it for a second. Vince McMahon is in his late 80s. Right? Sorry, early 80s, if memory serves me correctly. Not late 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Okay? Vince McMahon recently had a video come out about him crashing his car and looking like a mess. Vince McMahon has had a lot of issues lately off camera. There are a lot of reasons, regardless of the case, whatever your opinions are, as to why Vince McMahon probably is not a good fit to be on camera at the moment and be given a live mic, or not even a live mic, but be given the ability to do an action to cause some sort of issue, right? It just does not seem like a great idea. So that's all I would say on that front.
And what if the voice is The Rock? To rekindle the feud between The Rock and Cody Rhodes.
That would be another, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a much better option. I actually do think that's a much better option. But I think what kind of ruined last year's WrestleMania when it came to John Cena and the retirement tour is the fact that The Rock couldn't make any dates and Travis Scott couldn't make any dates. And so all of a sudden you have this really interesting and cool thing that's bubbling under the surface that goes away like a fart in the wind because guys can't make dates. And I think, you know what, I hate to bring him up, but this is what CM Punk was kind of talking about during that podcast with Cole Cabana, where it's like, who's coming to work on Monday? Who's going to be able to make the dates? Who's going to be able to contribute to the storyline? Who's going to build good television, right? And if The Rock can't do that, then does it make sense for The Rock to come back? Even though it would be a cool thing and be a better option.
It's interesting, especially with his schedule. I know he missed out on an Academy Award nomination. He did get the Golden Globe one, so he's still grinding out there. But there's one here that you talked about making the dates and making the story. One that has been is Brock Lesnar. Him and Obafemi have been creating a story here that a lot of fans are excited about. You can make the argument this could have even been a perfect night one main event if they went with Cody and Randy on the second night. And Brock's selling. He had the interview there where he's talking about giving back to the business. So him and Obafemi, if this is his last WrestleMania, if those reports that he's retiring later this year are true, should he lose this match to Obafemi, or should he make Obafemi look strong and sneak out a win with an F5?
He's probably gonna lose, probably has to lose just because of wrestling tradition. But this is honestly, and I hate to be this guy, I don't think it would matter. Yeah. I think the build has gone so well and has gone so towards like building Obafemi up as a star that I don't think it would matter if they play their cards right and they book this match right. But it probably should be Oba coming away with the victory. I've been quite impressed with the way Brock's been putting him over. The only thing I would say is that I would like for this match not to be just suplex, 5 minutes and Obafemi wins. Like, I want to see some good technical wrestling. I want to see a good match. I want to see a hard-hitting match. And I want to see it go into that 15, 20-minute range. It's funny, though. I would say that, like, for all this talk about the storylines being random and, like, on the Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes side and it being shoehorned a bit for WrestleMania, if you really think about it, this story, there is no story besides Oba thinking, I'm bigger than you, and Brock being like, well, I'm bigger than you. Like, so, again, WWE fans don't need much. We just need, like, something that makes sense in terms of the build. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because of this match. We didn't need much. We just need a narrative through line we can get behind. And it's something that I think we've kind of lost when it came to the Randy Orton side of things, the Randy Orton Cody Rhodes side of things.
Aaron, what do you think about this one with those two monsters going at it in the night 2 opener?
Yeah, it should be a really great match. To your point, Michael, looking forward to it. Another hard-hitting fight. An opener, an opening match, WrestleMania match for Brock Lesnar. That's interesting because he's usually in the main event, if not co-main event. So that will be interesting, and yeah, it should be a really, really good match. And then yeah, hopefully it can go 15 minutes or longer. Hopefully, and yeah, like Brock Lesnar, and then when you were mentioning Giancarlo about like if it would it be better if Lesnar wins the match or loses the match? I think it'd be more suited if he were to lose the match so that he puts Obafemi over.
And just even follow up to that, we saw Gunther kind of plant the seeds there. He told Paul Heyman that he's going to owe him much bigger than just what it was taking care of Seth Rollins. So Gunther, Brock Lesnar, is that the favor that you think it's going to be there, Aaron?
Like that should be another good match too, and yeah, like I can definitely see Gunther, pulling out a win. Um, and then the way the match kind of like sprung on too, and it's like it just kind of forced in a bit at the start. Um, and then yeah, like that should be a really entertaining match. I do see Gunther, yeah, winning. Rollins will definitely put up a fight. And be interesting too, right? To see like if AJ Lee, comes out during the match.
And Michael, this kind of reminded me of that episode of the Joe Rogan Experience where Joey Diaz was saying, "That's the seed, that's the seed," and you're just yelling the whole time as everyone was watching Raw. Gunther, when he's talking to Paul Heyman, it looked like that was the seed, Brock Lesnar. Because what else would he be going after for? He already had that long run retiring everyone, so it looks like he wants to retire Brock, but does Brock have to lose for him to be that baby face at SummerSlam against Gunther?
He does. Yeah, he would probably have to. Yeah, he'd probably have to lose. That's the easiest way to do it. That's the most effective way to do it. The problem is that if he were to lose and then Gunther, takes the scalp that is Brock Lesnar, like I'm saying, he takes that scalp. Is it really that much more impactful of a scalp than if Brock Lesnar were to win? You get what I'm trying to say? And so that's the issue that you're running into. This is the dilemma with that scenario where it's like, yeah, I love it. Gunther retires Brock Lesnar, but if Brock Lesnar is a wounded horse going into that matchup, does it really help Gunther from a storyline perspective, right? And so this is the catch-22 of it all, right? Does Brock Lesnar have to win for it to look more impactful when Gunther smites him at the expense of Obafemi? Or does Obafemi get that shine and Brock Lesnar's a wounded horse and Gunther retires him, but it's at the expense of Gunther because now Gunther doesn't look all that strong?
Yeah. And speaking of wounded horse there and narratives, the main event, we were talking about CM Punk and Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns has been saying that Phil's looking old, and he is old. So do you think now it's going to be counterproductive there if Roman Reigns beats CM Punk after the whole narrative going into this was that CM Punk's old and he's just a champion?
I mean, okay. The entire main event roster is old. CM Punk's in his mid 40s. Roman Reigns is in his 40s. Randy Orton is in his 40s. Cody Rhodes is in his late 30s. Like Gunther, I believe, is in mid 30s. Like everyone's old. Everyone is old, right? But I think it's because CM Punk wears it a bit more, and like CM Punk has never been the greatest athlete, and his body's been broken down from years of injuries, and he was kind of injury prone towards the end. So I think in terms of narrative, Roman Reigns probably has to win. But I don't know if being old was the way to go about it. I don't know if that was the storyline to pick. I think the storyline should have been you cut me at the knees 10 years ago with your podcast, and it took me so long and so hard, and you slighted me and you didn't respect me, and now I'm going to beat you because you didn't respect me. That should have been the storyline. And we turned it into your dad and your parents and you're being old and da da da. And it's cool. That's cool. But I think there could have been more juice out of the you don't respect me narrative.
I agree. And Aaron, what do you think about this whole build up there with Roman and Punk since the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, like I would agree too that the old man storyline is not a good way to go about it, because then, okay, if Roman Reigns wins, then like, okay, you beat an old man, so what was that? Like, you didn't, prove anything. Um, but then, since the Royal Rumble, it's, yeah, like they had a good build. Like, obviously, things could have been better. But this has kind of been like a long time coming. Like, I know Punk couldn't perform at WrestleMania last year due to injury. So, if Punk was healthy last year, then maybe, them two would have gone at it last year. But now that it's actually happening this year, it should be a very entertaining match. Me personally, I like to see Punk win because I'm not really a big fan of Roman Reigns, because like for Roman Reigns for a long time, like I just think that he's kind of been like, forced down our throats in terms of like, okay, he's the guy, so we're just gonna force him down, or like give him all the big matches, all these title matches, and then yeah, like we're just gonna push, 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 push. So like, while Punk is more of that like dangerous factor, kind of look, live, real, more authentic, looking. So yeah, like, go Punk, or who, but overall it will be a good match. So I'm looking forward to it.
Same here. And just one more question here before we close this off, this round table. I'll start with you, Aaron. How would you like to see night 2 end? And also, how would you like to see night 1 end? And which night do you think is going to shine the other or outshine the other?
Um, yeah, that's a really good question. I think, both nights have a very strong cards. Um, and then yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Like, it could be even, right? It could be even because, one night you have, CM Punk's match. The other night you have Randy Orton with Cody Rhodes. Um, but then also too, like, and then the night that has, with AJ Lee, like, AJ Lee, that would be exciting to see. Her first WrestleMania match in a very long time. But then it's like, okay, so that night has that match, but then the other night has Brock Lesnar and Obafemi match. So, um, like I think it'll just be a great weekend for wrestling. And, then also too, like, I'm kind of interested to see what role Danhausen
Yeah.
has, right? Because you never know what he's up to, and it'd be interesting to see how they use him at WrestleMania. But and hopefully too, like with the ticket prices, hopefully, both shows are sold out. Hopefully ringside doesn't look, so empty.
Yeah.
And yeah, it should just be a great night for wrestling.
Michael, same question to you. How would you like to
Yeah.
see both nights end?
Selfishly, I'd like to see Randy Orton get 15.
Yeah,
Um,
with you there.
yeah, I think Randy Orton, he's been through a lot in his career. He's transformed a lot. He's made it out the other side. There was a time where I honestly thought, like, and I'm not trying to be morbid when I say this, but I thought we might get a 10 bell salute. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying,
that was
with Randy
bad.
Orton. And for him to come out the other side and be like a model and a picture of a leader and a good locker room guy, just selfishly, I'd like to see him get 15. because I know it's like the clock is turning on the career. So, or it's not the clock. The book is turning on his career. So I'd like to see Randy Orton get 15. And CM Punk has been one of my like role models in my life since I was like a kid. There was a time, and you talk to any like black wrestling fan that they probably put CM Punk up there with Jeff Hardy as like top 5 white boys of all time in the WWE. Like it for whatever reason, he just resonated with the community like that. So I'd like to see CM Punk win. But like I'm good with either or. I just want to see good wrestling, and I even say that on the AEW side, like AEW, TNA, New Japan, NWA. I know you recently got in touch with Aaron Stevens there in NWA, and he was at Dallart's a couple months back. So I want to see good wrestling. I want to see wrestling be fun. I want to see people come out. I want to see people like it. And with WrestleMania, that is the jewel. No pun intended. That is the emerald. That is the creme de la creme, the upper echelon of how a wrestling show should go. Excuse me. And yeah, I just want to see good wrestling.
Agree with you there, and yeah, they set the bar there with last year. Travis Scott, so it can only go up from there. I think with night 2 this year. So looking forward to that. This has been a fun roundtable. We're hoping that WrestleMania delivers, and we hope that the Raptors can deliver because the Leafs didn't, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of struggling for the MLSE owned franchises. So hope to God the Raptors find that 2019 magic. This has been a great addition here. I'm Giancarlo. That's Michael. That's Aaron. And we're signing off.
Peace.